Fat acceptance movement is a big problem that floods people's headspace with a dangerous ideology. The world has come a long way with accepting people of different persuasions such as race, sex, gender, religion, and more recently, fat people. However, it is one of the most controversial topics besides gender identity. However, none more dangerous than fat acceptance. For long, mostly in the last couple decades, people have looked down on fat people, and as a result, they have been shunned and mistreated for their physical stature. The fat acceptance movement and organizations consisting of, such as the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, NAFA, chose to remedy this prolonged practice of inequality placed upon fat people, promoting body positivity and fat awareness, claiming that fat people should not only be happy and accept their big bodies, but also be proud of them as well, and encourage other skinny people to be happy and proud for them as well. The reasoning for this being such a controversial topic is that one side believes that the fat acceptance movement is necessary for fat people to avoid persecution. On the contrary, the other side believes that the fat acceptance movement peddles a backwards ideology, concerned about the health issues and the effects this movement has, and will have on the rates of obesity in America. Following that, the fat acceptance movement is a harmful and dangerous ideology where accommodating to fat people instead of promoting weight loss only ignores the blatant and obvious health concerns that arise from elevated levels of body fat. Rates of obesity and severe obesity have only been rising and only gone worse ever since NAFA's founding. NAFA has been around for nearly 50 years, and in their effort to solve problems, their existence has seemingly only caused them. From the early 60s to 2020, the obesity rates have only tripled since then, and proven true from the USA Facts article, U.S. obesity rates have tripled over the last 60 years. They provide a statistic pulled from the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, showing that in the early 1960s, roughly 13% of people were considered obese by CDC and prevention guidelines. Recent figures suggest that the current national obesity rate is closer to 43%. More importantly, however, in the same statistic, the article, there is a jump in obesity from 13% in the years 1960 to 1962 to 14% in the years 1971 to 1974. While not a huge increase, it is increased nonetheless, and the increases get more drastic as the years go on. Furthermore, the CDC provides more information about the rates of how prevalent obesity is. Where on CDC's page, Make Healthy Living Easier, they bring to light how many adults are struggling with obesity. 1 in 3 adults are struggling with obesity by CDC. To put that into perspective, this means that roughly 30% of all American adults are obese. So out of 100,000 people, 30,000 of them are obese. Proven by the many sources above, the rate of obesity is not only drastically increased. While correlation does not equal causation, one must wonder if the NAFA movement is a harmful key player in the disproportionate rates of obesity. Moreover, with the rates of obesity being the highest they've ever been, this only begs a question. Are people truly aware of the detrimental effect obesity has on health? The negative effect of obesity has been widely studied and researched for some time, concluding that there are many health risks and deficits. But not only that, treating obesity has been proven to be a costly endeavor, estimating to upwards of hundreds of billions of dollars. Many fat or obese people probably have heard something akin to, at least I'll live to past 35, or something close to that. While this remark is mostly hyperbolic, it is not far from the truth. Where on CDC's page where the risks for heart disease are specified, leading risk factors for heart disease and stroke are high blood pressure, high low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, secondhand smoke exposure, obesity, unhealthy diet, and physical inactivity. Normally, there wouldn't be such a big deal if there was an increase of heart problems or risk, if it not were for the fact it's the leading cause of death in the United States. The raw data provided by the CDC estimates that heart disease alone has taken the lives of more than 695,507 people a year, half the population of Hawaii. Deaths aren't the only staggering issues that America faces in relation to obesity, though. The cost for treating heart disease and obesity-related care is exorbitant. Nearly $216 is spent every year in healthcare, and around $147 of that billion is spent on treating obesity-related care. Obesity has been proven to be a plague that sweeps across the United States of America. Along with that, one should never forget the problem and risks obesity will make you face. Unfortunately, in recent times, less and less people are changing their weight unless are willing to even from doctor's orders. With a more positive outlook on fatness and obesity, fat loss is not encouraged, troubling, and instilling many fear doctors/physicians and demotivating many doctors from promoting weight loss. Corroborated by Jane E. Brody and her article, Fat Acceptance Movement Comes with a Price, covering the issues of the fat acceptance movement, public health experts fear that this trend towards fat acceptance bodes ill for future well-being and the soaring costs of chronic weight-related ailments like heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and more than a dozen kinds of cancer. As Dr. Burke wrote in a recent issue of JAMA devoted to obesity, public health and medical professionals worry that individuals who do not believe they are overweight or view obesity in a positive light are less likely to seek treatment for weight loss. Even doctors may be tempted to give up trying to convince their overweight patients to lose weight. The fat acceptance movement is known for preaching body positivity and self-love, righteous indeed. However, the idea that being fat is something to be proud of disillusions many people to think they don't need to lose weight, even if their doctors press onto them how much they should. Brody furthers this point by using Burke's opinion on the subject. Indeed, as one of the specialists put in JAMA, low cardiorespiratory fitness may pose a greater risk to health than obesity. The team headed by Ann Blair Kennedy on the University of South Carolina School of Medicine cited a 2014 analysis showing that, compared with normal weight people who are physically fit, unfit individuals who had an increased risk of death regardless of what they weighed, and those who are fit and overweight or obese did not face a significantly greater mortality risk than when compared with normal weight individuals. Many issues or risks people face are not always tempted or willing to stop unethical or harmful behavior. Moreover, when told by a doctor or professional that their unhealthy habits are sure to cause death or a form of severe debilitation, most will then course correct to prevent such unfavorable outcomes. However, the patient is still the one who has to implement the change, and when doctors are being ignored time and time again, eventually they will stop altogether, leading to a new belief that, well, my doctor hasn't said anything, so I guess I'm healthy, even though that could not be any more untrue. When fat acceptance allows people to believe false realities of what healthy and unhealthy is, this only continues further confusion among the two and distracts the melancholic fact that unhealthiness kills you, no matter the size. The benefits of the fat acceptance movement cannot outweigh the importance of human life. Many fat people are struggling every day with loving and accepting themselves for their size, and the lack of accommodation in public spaces. Becky Bold recounts her journey of weight gain/loss and the ability to accept and love herself in the article, A Plus-Size Model's Journey to Body Positivity and Acceptance, by Branwen Jones, published 2023. It is so important to me to promote body positivity, fat liberation, and body acceptance, she said. I was once a girl who was severely depressed, with an eating disorder, who couldn't bear to look at herself, who didn't even want to be here because she was fat. I really thought that life wasn't worth living because of being fat, but now I look at myself. I'm confident, happy, comfortable in my own skin, and even fatter than I was before. It just goes to show that body size isn't the issue. It's a mindset of the person. So many people look at the word fat with a negative attitude. But I want to reclaim that word as a description. It's not a negative word at all, and I think others need to look at it like that as well. Life is way too short to battle against your own body. With self-acceptance, there is so much more freedom, rather than the I'll be happy when I'm skinny mentality. Don't get me wrong. Some people do lose the weight and feel happier. That's great. But it's not the case for most people. I'm an example. And I feel so much happier than when I did when I lost all my weight. Becky's story proves the individualistic influence the fat acceptance movement has on people. From whence Bold was healthy, and now she gained back the weight because body positivity convinced her that it was okay to do so. Not to mention, saying fat isn't a negative descriptor is utterly untrue, because there wouldn't be such an outcry to call, in quotes, fat people big or heavyset instead of fat. Otherwise, they wouldn't care. Moreover, fat people struggle with accommodation in public spaces and claim that proper accommodation should be made to establish a safe and comfortable space. Danny Jensen, a teacher at a public school, in her article published September to October 2022, Teaching Why Fat, When Schools Talk About Inclusivity, They're Not Talking About Fat Bodies, complains about the accommodations that fat people should be made, for it believes accessibility should be a priority in the classroom, especially for bigger people. I'm fatter than ever these days, and things that didn't affect me when I was what's known in the fat community as a small fat are problematic now. Office chairs pinch my hips. Student classroom chairs are torture. I dread bus trips where I have to share a bench seat. Not I'll be hanging off the edge of the bench. Have a butt cheek in the aisle. Professional clothing is hard to find, especially if I want to shop in a physical store. I miss the questionable privilege of my high school days, even as I recognize things making me uncomfortable can and should be fixed. Accessibility should be a priority in educational settings, though I rarely hear anyone talk about the accessibility includes bodies of all sizes. These discomforts, these small indignities, could be fixed by better design, by thinking about more than the average student or faculty member, whoever those are supposed to be. When Jensen states that accessibility is a priority in the classroom, she is not wrong, but she is broadening this principle to a gross degree. Accessibility in public buildings, federal buildings, or services are for people struggling with a disability that cannot perform tasks as easily as a non-disabled person. Therefore, accommodations would have to be made. Such has been this way ever since the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, went into place, arguing that fat people should be included as an offensive thought process, because comparing someone with no legs to someone who lacks the self-control of their diet and saying that they're the same is just an insult to all disabled people. They get special treatment because they can't change or do anything about their disability, unlike the situation for some fat people. While there are exceptions, most of the time people can change their weight. So asking for special treatment because someone is on all intents and purposes lazy is unfair and cruel to disabled people. Comparing the two is disingenuous to the fact that weight can be altered, and saying that fat is a permanent disability is yet another gross belief pushed upon by the fat acceptance movement. First of all, the fat acceptance movement is not all bad and nothing all good together. For example, the idea of teaching people to appreciate and love themselves for who they are no matter their size is wonderful. No one should hate themselves just based on their physical appearance. Also, preaching that no one should treat someone unfairly, poorly, or worse than another because of their size is also a great principle. However, the fat acceptance movement does not stop there. They go into the extreme, making claims that being obese is okay and perfectly fine, and fat people are like disabled people, are not only untrue, but harmful. As proven earlier, the leading cause of death and heart problems and the main factor of poor habits or lifestyles, such as being overweight or underweight. Moreover, if the fat acceptance movement has caused rates to not only rise, but change the stigma of being fat, once being fat was seen as a bad thing and people would try to change it. People are less apt to change their weight and more or less see their weight in a positive light. Increasing the obesity rates, also the cost of healthcare would exponentially rise. With deaths rising, obesity rising, healthcare costing more, how could the fat acceptance movement not be more of a harmful and dangerous ideology?